It's
Yeah.
allergy season. You know it's arrived when, well, just stepping outside feels like entering a giant pollen-filled snow globe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you find yourself in the pharmacy just staring at this massive wall of nasal sprays. They all promise sweet, sweet relief. It's overwhelming.
It really is. And you know, we've all been there, haven't we? Just desperate for a clear breath that doesn't, well, sound like you're wrestling a goose.
Totally. That feeling of, will anything actually work?
Absolutely. And you know, that exact feeling, that frustration is why we're diving in today. We've waded through, a lot of research, specifically studies that put these common allergy nasal sprays to the test.
The ultimate test.
Kind of, yeah. A head-to-head comparison against, well, basically nothing. A placebo spray.
The old sugar pill trick, but for your nose.
Precisely. Think of it as the sniffle championship. And our mission for you, the learner, is to cut through all that scientific jargon and figure out what really seems to work, both for those seasonal pollen bombs and the year-round allergy grind.
Okay, so they basically tested these things against hope and maybe a damp tissue, just to see if they're genuinely better.
That's the idea. And the overall finding, it's actually pretty positive. Most of these intranasal meds, the corticosteroids, the antihistamines, even those combo ones that try to do it all, they're significantly better than placebo.
Better at what, specifically? Just less sniffling?
Well, yes, less sniffling, less congestion, fewer itchy eyes, tackling both the nasal and the ocular symptoms. But importantly, they also seem to improve people's overall quality of life, which, let's be honest, is the real goal.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because allergies aren't just annoying, they can genuinely make you miserable. A grumpy, red-nosed hermit, basically.
Exactly.
So, okay, most sprays beat doing nothing. That's good news. But, are there standouts, the MVPs of the nasal spray league, the ones that really pack a punch against that pollen onslaught?
Yeah, good question. When we focus specifically on seasonal allergic rhinitis SAR, the springtime sneezing frenzies or fall ragweed reactions.
The predictable misery.
Right. We do see a few that consistently rise to the top for nasal symptoms and just feeling better overall. Names like azelastine fluticasone, that's a combo one, and then fluticasone furoate and fluticasone propionate.
Okay, still sound a bit like tongue twisters, but noted.
Yeah. But the data suggests these have the highest probability of making a real noticeable difference. A moderate or even large improvement in what researchers call the Total Nasal Symptom Score, or TNSS, and also in quality of life measured by the RQLQ.
TNSS and RQLQ. Got it. So less blocked up, less runny, less sneezy, and generally less wanting to hide indoors until winter.
That's the gist of it, yeah.
Okay, what about the eyes? Because sometimes my nose feels okay-ish, but my eyes are just streaming and itching like crazy.
Yeah.
Any specific heroes for eye agony?
Yes, actually. For those really bothersome eye symptoms and seasonal allergies, that combination spray, again, azelastine fluticasone, seems to be the front runner.
The combo strikes again?
It does. It showed the highest likelihood of significantly improving the Total Ocular Symptom Score, or TOSS. So yeah, if your eyes are the main battleground, that's perhaps one to look into more closely.
Good to know. It's like having specialists, right? Some for the nose, maybe that one for the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the seasonal squad. What about the folks who suffer all year round? Perennial allergic rhinitis or PAR? Is there hope up the nose for them too?
Yes, definitely. The medications assessed generally appear to be effective for PR as well. The review looked at quite a range. Azelastine, that azelastine fluticasone combo, again, beclomethasone, budesonide, succinide, both fluticasone we mentioned, mometasone, olopatadine, another combo olopatadine, mometasone, and triamcinolone. So lots of options studied.
Yeah, a whole roster.
Right. But it's important to add a caveat here. The evidence base for PAR, for perennial allergies, is generally a bit weaker for some drugs and some outcomes compared to the seasonal allergy studies.
Weaker how? Like fewer studies or less clear results?
A bit of both, really. For some medications and specific symptom scores in PAR, the results weren't quite as strong or as consistent. It makes it a little harder to definitively say these are the absolute top performers in the same way we could for some aspects of seasonal allergies.
That makes sense, I guess. Maybe the triggers are more varied or constant exposure makes it harder to measure improvement?
That could definitely be part of it. Year-round triggers like dust mites or pet dander are just always there. Potentially, it complicates things.
Right. Now, you mentioned something earlier, the certainty of the evidence. Can you unpack that a bit? Is that like a confidence score for the research?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Researchers use a system, often called GRADE, to rate how confident they are in the findings. High certainty means we're pretty sure the results are accurate and future research is unlikely to change our minds.
Okay, solid ground.
Yeah. Moderate certainty means we're reasonably confident, but there's a chance future research could refine things. Then you get low or very low certainty, which means our conscience is limited. The true effect might be substantially different from what the current studies suggest. Maybe the studies were small, had limitations, or the results were inconsistent.
So, if a study shows amazing results but has low certainty, you should take it with a rather large grain of salt.
Precisely. It's more of a, this is interesting, we need more research situation, rather than a, this is definitively the best option conclusion. For seasonal allergies, the certainty actually varied quite a lot across the different sprays and symptoms, from high all the way down to very low, though quite a bit fell into the moderate category.
Okay, and for Perennial, you said the evidence was generally weaker.
Yeah, that pattern held. Both the size of the benefit, the effectiveness, and the certainty of that evidence tended to be lower overall for perennial allergies compared to seasonal ones. It just highlights that we need more high-quality research focused specifically on PAR.
Gotcha. More digging required for the year-round sufferers. Okay, let's circle back to those combination sprays. You mentioned azelastine fluticasone a couple of times. Are these 2-in-1 sprays generally the way to go, like a super team tackling allergies from different angles?
Well, they certainly performed well in this analysis, especially as we noted azelastine fluticasone for seasonal symptoms, both nasal and ocular. And olopatadine mometasone is another combo option that was looked at.
Does it make sense that they'd be better, hitting it with 2 different types of medicine?
It does make logical sense, yeah. You've got an antihistamine component and a corticosteroid component working together. For people who don't get enough relief from just one type of medication, a combination might offer that extra benefit. The data seems to support that, particularly for SAR.
So it may be worth considering if a single ingredient spray isn't quite cutting it. Now, shifting gears slightly, I've heard about more drastic measures like steroid shots, intramuscular injections. Are those still a thing?
Ah, yes. Intramuscular corticosteroids, or IMCIs. There was a separate review looking specifically at these for seasonal allergies. And yes, they can provide very rapid symptom relief.
Rapid relief sounds amazing when you feel like your head's packed with cotton wool.
It does sound appealing, absolutely. But there's a significant but.
I figured there might be. What's the catch?
The catch is safety concerns. Current treatment guidelines, like the ARIA guidelines we mentioned, generally advise against using IMCIs routinely. The main worry is the potential for systemic side effects from the corticosteroids, the kind of side effects you might associate with taking steroid pills long-term.
Ah, okay, so not just a local effect in the nose like a spray?
Exactly. It's delivering a depot of steroid into your muscle, which then gets absorbed systemically. Now, the review did find that some studies showed these injections were better than placebo or other controls, while others showed they were about equal. And the side effects reported in the studies they included were mostly mild and temporary.
So not disastrous in the studies they looked at.
Not typically, no. And things like HPA axis suppression, basically, your body's own steroid production being dampened if it was reported, it usually went back to normal within a few weeks. However, the potential for more significant systemic effects exists. And given that we have effective and safer options like the nasal sprays.
The shots are generally not the first choice, or maybe even the second or third.
Pretty much. They're typically reserved for very specific, severe cases where other treatments haven't worked, and the benefits are carefully weighed against the risks by a doctor. Definitely not a standard go-to.
Okay, that makes sense. Sometimes the quick fix has hidden costs. So we've talked sprays, we've touched on shots. Why does nailing the right allergy treatment matter so much? Beyond just feeling less sniffly, what's the bigger impact?
Oh, it's huge. Allergic rhinitis isn't just a minor inconvenience for millions of people. It really impacts daily life. Think about trying to concentrate at work or school when your head feels fuzzy and your nose won't stop running.
Yeah, focus goes out the window.
Exactly. It messes with sleep quality, too. And all that adds up, lowering your overall quality of life. Plus, there's a massive economic cost.
Economic? How so?
Billions of dollars every year in the U.S. alone. That's from healthcare visits, medication costs, and also lost productivity, people missing work or school, or just not being effective while they're there because they feel so lousy.
Billions. Wow. Okay, suddenly my itchy eyes seem part of a much bigger picture.
It really is a significant public health issue. That's why those ARIA guidelines emphasize proper management and really push intranasal medications as first-line therapy. And, it's often your local pharmacist who's the first point of contact. They play a really crucial role in helping you navigate the
Right,
options.
they're right there in the aisle with that wall of sprays.
Exactly. And treatment isn't one size fits all. It really should be tailored based on how severe your symptoms are, mild, moderate, or severe. It
Yeah.
requires a bit more thought than just grabbing the box with the prettiest flower on it.
Huh? Guilty as charged, maybe sometimes. Okay, so it's about finding the right tool for your specific allergy situation. Now, I want to ask about something else I read. Climate change. Is it really making allergy seasons worse? Am I doomed to even more pollen in the future?
Well, unfortunately, the science does seem to be pointing in that direction. Several studies suggest that, yes, climate change is impacting pollen.
Great.
Just more of it.
It seems to be a combination of things. Research indicates increased production of allergenic pollen by some plants, and also, crucially, longer pollen seasons in many regions.
Longer. Ugh.
Yeah. For instance, there was a study in Atlanta that tracked pollen counts from 1992 to 2018, nearly 30 years. They found significant increases in the concentration of certain tree pollens, oak and juniper were examples, and they also saw a trend across multiple species for pollen release to happen earlier in the spring.
So it starts sooner and there's more of it. That's just unfair. It does feel that way if you're a sufferer. The study linked warmer spring temperatures generally to that earlier pollen release. And interestingly, they also found a connection between higher rainfall in the previous fall and higher pollen concentrations the following spring.
Wow. So weather patterns really are directly messing with allergy season.
It appears so. Changes in temperature and precipitation, driven by broader climate shifts, seem to be having a tangible effect on the pollen load you're exposed to. Your personal allergy experience might actually be changing over time because of these environmental factors.
Great. Something else to look forward to. Okay, let's try to wrap this up for the learner. What are the main takeaways from this deep dive into the world of nasal sprays?
Okay, so key points. First, intranasal medications, corticosteroids, and antihistamines, including the combos, are generally effective. They do work better than placebo for both seasonal and perennial allergies, improving symptoms and quality of life.
Good baseline.
But second, there are differences. For seasonal allergies, some specific sprays like Zelastine fluticasone, fluticasone furoate, and fluticasone propionate showed the strongest evidence for improving nasal symptoms and quality of life. And that Zelastine fluticasone combo stood out for eye symptoms too.
Okay, potential frontrunners there.
Third, the evidence for perennial year-round allergies is generally a bit less clear-cut, and the certainty of the findings across the board varies. Remember grade. High certainty is best. Low certainty means more research is needed.
Right. Check the confidence rating.
Fourth, those combination sprays often perform well, which makes sense. And fifth, while steroid injections, IMCIs, offer fast relief, they aren't recommended for routine use due to potential side effects. Safer options first.
And finally, the elephant in the room.
Or?
Or maybe the pollen cloud.
Right. Climate change seems to be lengthening pollen seasons and potentially increasing pollen counts, which could make managing allergies even more challenging down the road.
Okay, so what's this? So what for someone listening who's currently battling the sniffles?
The so what is that this information empowers you. You now have a clearer picture of what the research landscape looks like. The crucial next step is to take this understanding and talk to your doctor, your pharmacist, or other healthcare provider.
Don't just randomly pick a spray based on our chat.
Exactly. Discuss your specific symptoms, nose, eyes, severity, seasonal versus perennial, and use these findings as a basis for that conversation to figure out the best plan for you.
Makes sense. So a final thought to leave everyone pondering. With pollen seasons potentially getting longer and nastier and treatments having these different effectiveness profiles, what's next? What kind of advancements in allergy management might we realistically hope for? And maybe how can we personally adapt better to these ongoing changes?
That's the big question, isn't it? Definitely something to think about as we navigate the evolving world of allergies.